You want to start recording?
It is
Jeremy?
recording.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Comments from citizens present we have on the agenda. Is anyone here who would like to speak to the committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes for April 13th, 2021.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, minutes are approved. On to our licenses and permits. We have 19 items in here, so we'll start at the top. Number one, application for renewal of Class B fermented malt beverage license by Madison Wbwi LLC, doing business as Sticky Barbecue Pit, 8225 Greenway Boulevard, number 120. Nick Ziegler, Lodi, Wisconsin, as agent. Nick, you're here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
Ken. Sorry about that.
It's time to renew the alcohol license. We wanted to check in with you and make sure you got your licensed operator on board.
I
Everything
did.
went well?
I've gotten, yes, Ryan, and then also Kit Bano.
So you got two. Good.
Yes.
All right. And everything's going well. Jeremy, has there been any further things we should be aware of?
Nope, no issues. I did actually touch base with Lori a week or two ago and said that their liquor license renewal was one of the first ones she had received.
Okay, very good. All right. Dan, Katie, any other questions, or you want to make a motion, or?
No other questions. Thank you for taking care of that, Mr. Ziegler. I would move to approve.
I was second.
Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Application for renewal is granted. Item number 2, application for renewal of a combination Class B beer and Class B liquor license by Middleton Sport Bowl LLC, doing business as Middleton Sport Bowl, 6815 University Avenue. James Brown, Wanakee, Wisconsin, agent. Dudley, you're on? James
Yes.
isn't here, correct? Dudley's on, okay. Thank you for joining us tonight. Just checking in, we know you've appealed the operator's license and that's all in place. And we just want to check in and make sure Jeremy, have there been any issues that you know of?
No, none recent. There haven't been a whole lot of too many recent bar issues at all anywhere. So
Isn't that something? Okay. Dan, Katie, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, not at this time.
No, I will move approval.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Application for renewal is granted. Thank you, Dudley, for joining
Well,
us.
thank you very much. I appreciate that, you guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
I do have to comment quick based on what you just said. Amazingly enough, apropos of nothing we're dealing with, I just got contacted by somebody who may nameless in a different municipality looking for help on a liquor license that, despite COVID, has a 70 count complaint against them for to non-renewed alcohol license. So
Whoa.
yeah,
whoa.
we don't have any of those here, so that's good.
no, we do not. It would not have gotten to 70, I don't think.
Yeah. No.
No.
Whoa.
So I'm all go.
Dudley, you were breaking up. We couldn't hear you.
I'm good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah, you're
Yes,
good.
thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Number 3, review of application to amend the agent for the alcohol beverage license held by UW Provisions Company, doing business as UW Provisions Company, 2315 Pleasantview Road, to appoint Robert L.D. Williams, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, as agent.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want to, or if it's even possible to deal with these all at once. I had talked to Lori. She just requested that if these all get approved, they get approved, or as a motion to get approved with the remainder of the licenses. So it can be one agenda item on the city council agenda. But I can tell you that I've run all the records checks on these next 4 items, and they're all good to go from the PD perspective.
So the next four, that would be UW Provisions, Dollar General, Craftsman Table and Tap, and Johnny's Italian.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, I do have a question on the Craftsman and the Johnnies.
Yep.
Both of the people that are listed as agents have had alcohol-related problems. I don't know what to say. Do we want to discuss those independently and then, or can we make a motion to approve everything and then talk about these, or how would that best work?
Matt,
I
any
guess
opinion?
my question is it unusual for someone who's acting as agent to have these kinds of offenses?
I guess in my professional experience, I would say people who work in bars frequently have alcohol-related offenses. In these circumstances, both of them, I think the most recent one was 2018.
Right, they were both 2018. Mhm.
Yes, yep. And the one I would say that there was the Craftsman, Miss Nolan did have two offenses. One was in 2015 though. So 2015, 2018, but nothing in my eyes that would prohibit somebody from holding that license based on the recommendations and standards that Matt had provided us through that memo.
Okay, all right. So what we're going to do then is roll these all together. We're going to review the application for UW revisions, the application for Dollar Gen Co. for doing business as Dollar General, and the Craftsman Table and Tap, and Johnny's Italian Steakhouse.
Uh,
I would move approval of those.
I will second. Sorry, I was looking for the list of all the names again.
Should I
Sorry.
do number 7 also, because that's the rest of the group? Is that how it goes, or were
Yeah,
these
so
were
that
to
is-
amend the agent? Okay, got it. Never mind.
Yeah,
never
those
mind.
four were just amending the agent. The next one is the remainder of the
Okay.
licenses.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So we're doing just those 4 together.
Yeah, I guess that's up to you guys. I
Yeah.
don't know all of those rules.
Yeah, no, you can do them all together.
Katie, did you make the motion to
No,
accept those?
Dan did, and I second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those 4 agents have been approved. Item number 7, renewal of remaining applications for 2021, 2022 Class A and Class B intoxicating liquor, Class A and Class B fermented malt beverages, and Class C wine licenses.
I have nothing else to report for any of those, so no issues from the PD.
I have a question,
Yeah.
just out of curiosity, about how many licenses do we have? Just a big general, nothing to, I'm just curious if we could get close to
As many?
70. Oh,
I honestly don't know the number.
okay,
That'd be a better question for Lori, but
okay.
you got them all.
Sometime I might ask just.
Yeah,
to-
she certainly would have the number because we have
Right.
to maintain,
Yeah.
keep track
Yeah.
of quotas and.
Yep.
I was just kind of, if we could be in that 70 ballpark in any way, so, okay.
Mhm.
So now did we, my mind is just scattered today. Now, did we already vote on that?
No, let's
Okay.
vote on those 4.
Okay, no, those
Wait,
4.
oh
we
no,
did.
on this
Go on.
one, this one.
Renewal of the application.
Oh my God, whose brain is scattered?
Okay.
Did we move for approval?
I think that's what you were about to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Then I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's been a long day, right, people?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Talking about fermented malt beverages, but not drinking them, surprisingly.
Okay, let's see, number 8, application for combination Class B beer and Class B liquor reserve license for Circolo LLC doing business as Squalls Cantina, 6712 Frank Floyd Wright Avenue, and number 2, Julie Chamberlain, Madison, Wisconsin, agent.
Yep, and so this is going to be the old Pizza Brutta location off of Frank Lloyd Wright by Craftsman. No issue. I rewind a little bit. So they are requesting a regular license if one comes available. We do not have any right now, so it would be a reserve license unless something popped up in the last couple of days. But records checks from the PD end is all good to go, so no concerns here.
And so this restaurant isn't open yet? This,
Correct.
okay. I will move approval.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, number 9, application for temporary Class B retailers license to sell beer and wine at Middleton Youth Hockey, PO Box 628311, Middleton, Alan Spector, President, for August 26th through the 29th, 2021 at Fireman's Park, 7400 Lee Street for Good Neighbor Fest.
Yeah, so this one's going to be interesting, I guess. So traditionally, each of these expanded premises for their temp Bs came with a security plan, which is based on the capacity that was set for the crowd. We don't have a capacity set yet, and it's now going to be this open area. And then there's still going to be those 2 groups that are going to be selling alcohol, although I haven't seen anything from VFW yet. So I'm not entirely sure how to go with this one. The special events permit with a temp B requires a security plan, which I guess we can't really develop until we know what capacity is going to be and what that's all going to look like. So I guess I would just suggest that anything be contingent upon an approved security plan.
Yeah, that's what we do. We just make it contingent upon a security plan once we have the parameters for capacity, I think.
Okay.
And that's the approval goes to the police department. They approve that without coming back here, right? It's
I believe so, if the security plan meets with their approval, because we're making it their license contingent upon
okay.
police department being satisfied with their security plan.
So
I'll make that motion.
I will second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving contingent on submitting an approved security plan?
Aye.
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 Opposed, okay, motion carries. Okay, now we have some entertainment licenses. And before we go, I just have a couple questions for you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
2 things. It talks a lot about patron ratios.
Yeah.
Is there it's such a wide range there. Is there a range that the police like to see, or until they prove otherwise, or how does that work?
That's an interesting question, because I was looking at these thinking the same thing, and I think a little bit of a misunderstanding with this first one as far as the size of the crowd, and you put the times, the peak and whatnot. But yeah, we don't have any expectation or standard. I think what you described is probably how we would address it. Is if there are issues, then we would probably get more detailed with it and address those specifically. What I can tell you for World of Beer is we've had a couple of disturbance related issues there. They're having some like DJ nights now, but they've also been very receptive to any feedback. I talked to the 3rd shift officers. They do have security at the door. They have they're wanding everybody with a metal detector on the way in. So based on what I'm seeing is they're doing it right. They still have a handful of issues, but they contact us when those occur.
That's a lot of their questions that were kind of dependent on referring to the police department, is what I understood, instead of, and I didn't know how, if you feel like they're stepping up to handle it the best they can.
Based on what I know of it, yes, I think they
Okay.
are. And they've been, like I said, they've been good about working with us and having, he's open to feedback, the owner here.
Okay. And a more general question, you mentioned it too, is peak crowd. Some of them put down the count,
Yeah.
some put down the hours. Is it important to know both of those things, or is it the count that you're mainly looking for?
You know, I didn't have anything to do with developing this, but I found it interesting because this is the first one I reviewed, and I thought, okay, that's interesting to know what times it is. And then the next one lists the number of patrons. It's a little bit unspecific in that form. So both of them are important, I think, but I think the number is probably more important for us.
Do we want to add, would you like us to have that added? So we can have the peak times and the peak hours?
Yeah, and
Or
I was
peak
thinking
attendance.
about that too, is even just putting patrons at the end of it, or adding those same questions for the number of patrons. So I can certainly work with Lori and discuss that.
Okay, okay. The other question I have for you is types of security. This is wide ranging of the different types that are listed
Yeah.
here. Some go from volunteer security at Hody to no security, you know, it's all over. What do the police department, I mean, if it's a business, shouldn't they have not volunteer security? Shouldn't they have some sort of trained?
Yeah, but I think one of the problems is there is no standard for training for security. So,
But they're not volunteers if they're,
if they're getting, I found that interesting that that's even an option on there. And I have talked, I think it was the Hody you said that had that one as well, right? That had that mark.
yes, I thought it was said Hody, yeah,
Yep,
it was
and
volunteer,
I
yeah,
think Cindy's on here. I just recently talked to her as well. so
okay.
we can address that with her. As
Okay.
far as what that means, but I don't know why it's there. It seemed
Okay, it just, well, you know, if it's a
small, yeah.
okay, anyway, but there's nothing as far as if it's a business, you like to see this kind of security or that, okay.
There isn't.
All
no.
right, so those were the questions I had, so I guess we can go into here. Item number 10, application for an entertainment club license for Wbwi Middleton LLC doing business as World of Beer, 8225 Greenway Boulevard, Oscar Holomino, agent, I don't know. Okay,
And yeah, like I said, I don't see any significant issues here. They've been open to working with us.
okay,
Okay, this is Katie. I'll move approval on this World of Beer.
I'll second.
any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Item number 11, application for entertainment club license by Hoops of Dane County Incorporated doing business as Elixir Restaurant and Brew Pub, 1915 Branch Street, Dale Beck, agent.
Before we
Same.
get into this,
No.
yeah, I don't expect any issues arising with us, but I just want to let the committee know that this, Mr. Beck and Hoops is actually a client of mine. So
Okay.
hopefully they don't ever get in any trouble, but just want to remind you that, and if
Full
issues
disclosure,
arise,
huh?
we'll
Yeah,
have to address that later, but.
Yeah. full disclosure. And this is the old club tavern, correct?
Correct.
Oh,
And again, they, I don't even think they've been open. I know they've been doing some remodeling recently. So we have not had any issues there, and I don't see any specific issues with the application either.
all right. I will move approval on Elixir's entertainment club license.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 12, application for entertainment club license by Hody Bar and Grill doing business as Hody Bar and Grill, 1914 Aurora Street, Fay House, agent.
And Cindy, are you here? No, I literally talked to her up until the point that I got on this meeting.
Oh,
Okay,
There's a guest iPhone and a RAM mode.
all muted.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll just kind of fill you in on what my conversation was with her. So like I think I had spoke or via email anyway, Kathy had talked to you. So she did reach out to us and just asked for some PD input on on some suggestions as to what they can do after the shooting. I know that had been a significant concern, and understandably so. So they talked about a handful of things, perhaps closing down a little early. They have now moved their bands on, it's only live music on Saturday nights. And it's going to move up from, they used to do it 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. Now it's going to be 8 p.m. to midnight. And so what she thinks is happening is that she's getting a crowd from, and again, I haven't confirmed any of this, but from an outside municipality that closes at midnight, and then they bring that entire crowd to the Hody, get there about 12:30 is, and I think the shooting was around 1 a.m. So she's given authority to her staff to close down whenever they see fit, if they need to. Hasn't necessarily instructed them to do so. One of the, oh, there's somebody else popping on here. In fact, that is her there. Recognize that phone number. Cindy, you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, thanks for joining us here. So why don't you, I guess you can go ahead and kind of explain what your plans are here.
Okay, what we already changed the band so they would end at midnight, because the crowd that seems to be a problem doesn't normally come in till 12:30, even going on to 1. It seems like they're coming from someplace else. So the bartenders have been told to, depending on if the crowd comes in or not, to close between 12:30 and 1. If they need to close earlier, even like 11:15, 11:30 while the band's playing, we will just simply close at that time. And it's been discussed then getting shirts for not only those that usually monitor the crowd and check IDs, but also probably all the bartenders that are working on a given night, so they're easily available to see. We have regular walkthroughs, which have always worked well in the past. Trying to think of what else we've started. I've also talked to the officers about if we just feel antsy at any time, about calling them to just come down, check out the parking lot, do a walkthrough. I'm not sure how much we can monitor the parking lot, because that actually spills over past our parking area without actually hiring a regular security company. So I'm not sure if that would be the way to go or not.
So in Cindy, one of the questions that came up is you had circled volunteer security. What do you mean by that on your application?
There are people that have worked, they're not on the payroll. They've just ones that have always covered the door for us and watched the crowd. One of them is Sebastian. Of course, my mind will go blank. I know his last name because he used to be a regular employee. And he's there quite often. Another one is Maddie, who works frequently. Sometimes it will just be a bartender that's off that night. So they check IDs. They kind of walk through the crowd, see if there's anything that seems out of place, anything that we don't want.
Okay.
So they're not anybody that's actually on payroll as employees. So I could hire people as, regular employees.
Okay. So she has, Cindy's met with, well, she spoke with me earlier today. She talked with our detective lieutenant. She's met with the third shift lieutenant, and the patrol officer we have as a neighborhood type program is assigned to the Hody bar and does bar checks and things like that. So she has been reaching out to us and working with our staff here. So hopefully it's a very isolated incident, but otherwise, the only other question I had, Cindy, is that you had mentioned checking IDs upon entrance, and that's in question 7A. It says, how are they going to be utilized? And you have 2 entrances that I think are pretty frequently used. How do you address that?
we usually have the two, because the one is seldom ever used by
Okay.
customers. So we have, so that they get the wristbands, individuals get the wristbands.
Okay.
So then there's usually a front door and a back door person. Well, the corner of Aurora and Elmwood, and then the back parking lot are the two main ones that will be used. So then IDs are checked. Bartenders also check IDs when people come up.
Okay.
Even if, if they don't have a wristband, a bartender still might question them and have them produce an ID. And then the people that watch for the IDs also will go through the crowd periodically just to get feel for it. They'll go back the room with the pool table, because if you have a group of 10 people, that might be a common place to be, because we have the different tall tables back there, and you might want to play pool. And so that's a common place for people to hang out, unless they're out, enjoying the band.
And I did talk to Cindy a little bit about this too. The issues seem to arise. I shouldn't say that. The shooting was out of a disturbance. That's what initiated that. But then this crowd that's showing up later seems to hang around in the parking lot. And even as recently as this last weekend, the third shift patrol officers said they kind of were running security there just by presence to try to encourage people to go. So I talked to Cindy about going out into the parking lots or having security, and that was an issue she already addressed there. But their staff, I'm assuming likely because they're volunteers, I didn't know that at the time, is not wearing anything necessarily that identifies them as security. So even our own staff was a little bit confused as to who was working there, who was their security. I talked about then getting those staff out into the parking lot to encourage people to kind of be on their way around bar time. And then she brought up that issue where some of them park a little bit further west off of Cayuga, and those businesses like Denny's and Barrique's. So she doesn't necessarily see that as an area that her staff can go to. So that's when I encourage her to contact us if she needs further assistance. You can understand that our staff will, of course, be giving attention when available around bar time as well to that area in the near future. So.
Matt, isn't it somewhat different that you would have volunteer security? Doesn't that seems to me that would be a huge liability issue, number one.
Well, yeah, it could potentially be, it's a liability issue one way or the other, but yeah, it could potentially be a liability issue because it raises a question of whether anything happens, whether we've actually got workers' comp coverage for it and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it raises questions of what somebody's authority is, what training you provided them. Yeah,
I guess
I think having, and then and also when you combine that with issues of who has authority to do what, and the police showing up on the scene and not being able to clearly identify who is actually there acting on behalf of the Hody and who's really security. I do think that is not ideal.
Which that could be very easily remedied. And when I talked to my mind's a blank, the officer earlier, I said I thought it'd be a good thing for all of the staff that works on the weekend nights to have shirts that identify them as staff. And from watching the cameras, it seems that this was a very targeted incident, that it wasn't just an argument that broke out inside the bar, that the one person was actually looking for the other.
But I very much would like to see the security in some kind of shirt or something to identify them for a number of different reasons. One, that we know, but also for the safety of our officers who may pull up on a scene and not know who's who. I think it's putting our officers in a precarious situation too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I said that can be very, very easily remedied before the weekend. So whether they should, is there a preference, whether they just say staff or security?
Jeremy, you got a thought?
I think, security is probably best if they are actually in a security role. If you're looking for something generic, staff, whatever, across the back, just so it's visible is great for us, just so we know what we're rolling up on.
Yeah, okay. And like,
Yeah, that's
so
very
they're both nothing. Yeah,
Because my understanding that at the shooting, the Sebastian was heavily involved and was trying to separate the parties at one point. So, if our officers roll up, I think Dan makes a very good point, is who's who at that point. I know that a lot of our third shift officers do know your staff just from doing bar checks, and they are familiar with Sebastian, but if I were there, I certainly would not.
right. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I can definitely see that point. That they used to just wear hoodie shirts all the time, but even then, it doesn't identify them necessarily as staff or security.
Correct.
Like I said, that can be easily remedied, and we change the bands back to midnight so that it's before this crowd usually would show up. We're hoping they just go and find somewhere else.
Yeah.
Somewhere else, not in Middleton.
Right.
Pardon? And
Somewhere
not in Middleton. Yes.
Right.
Definitely not. Yeah. So they will go where they can. And I actually asked one of the bartenders that cards somebody that comes in all the time. The person's of age. She just likes to card the person. And I said, did you look at where she's from? And she's like, no. I said, next time look and see so we know where, if there's a certain part of town that some of these seem to be coming from too.
Okay.
Have a little better handle on it.
Yeah. Well, those sounds like
But-
a couple positive changes for sure.
At this time, we don't, because I feel it was a very isolated incident. We don't feel that we would need to close early every night. I have told the bartenders, anytime you feel uncomfortable, you can close right now. You can call the police, ask them to come and do a walkthrough, or check the parking lot, because I know the groups like to hang out in the parking lots. That's the issue all around, especially on the west side.
Okay. Dan, Katie, any other questions or comments?
No. I guess I will move approval, but with the condition that we have some security or staff shirts that people working security have.
Sounds very
second.
reasonable.
And Katie, you second that?
Yeah,
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, Cindy.
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
Item number 13, application for an entertainment club license by DL Spirits Incorporated doing business as Bristle Boar Saloon, 2611 Branch Street. Richard Lyshek, agent.
Yeah, from PD, they actually, it's probably the most thorough one out of the group for sure. We have a handful of problems there. They're pretty good about calling us when they arrive. So I don't see any issues with the entertainment club license.
All right, I'll move approval on the entertainment license.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 14, application for an entertainment club license by Madison Capitals Hockey Association, 2616 Pleasantview Road, Michael Klinkhammer, agent.
Yeah, so it was unfortunately too late, but I realized that this one is kind of incomplete here.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah. So I can certainly reach out to them and have them finish that and bring this back to you guys. I think we have time to address that since they're renewed, I believe at the same time in July as the liquor licenses. So
I'll move to defer this one.
Second.
All in favor, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
now Laura gets to talk.
Okay, Laura,
You're in the hot seat now.
Yeah,
should we do 15 and 16 together?
yeah, I think so.
Okay, application for special event permit by Lupus Foundation of America, Wisconsin chapter. Dawn Shemenko, contact person for the 2021 walk to end Lupus Now Madison on September 25th, 2021 at Fireman's Park. And the application for an outdoor amplified sound permit by Dawn Shemenko for Lupus Foundation, Wisconsin chapter 2600 Mayfield Road, Suite 320, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, for sound system announcements and band 9 a.m. to noon, September 25th, 2021, for the 2021 walk to end Lupus Now.
Yeah, so this is an annual event at Fireman's Park. This is their 8th year. Obviously, last year they had to go virtual, but not a whole lot of changes from previous years. They're pretty familiar with having to revise the route based on, I mean, they had to revise it in past years due to the flooding, and they're probably going to have to do that again this year with some construction that's going to be taking place on the Pheasant Branch Creek Corridor Trail. And then also just they have had their route reviewed and approved by Middleton High School based on where their construction is going to be at in September. And actually we did revise the route slightly since the two routes were submitted. So, but yeah, they're open to tweaking as need be. They're likely going to have to go with option 2 as their route. And then I do have, I think, Kim Henson's on the call tonight. She's a board member and able to answer any questions the committee might have. They did also submit a COVID-19 preparedness plan.
Okay.
I move approval.
Katie, do you have any questions? Oh, you're muted.
Muted.
Dang it, sorry, I seconded, sorry. I'm
Further dis-
intently reading the details here.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion
Thank
carried.
you.
Okay. Number 17, application for a special event permit by Stonefield Neighborhood Association, Judy Fard, contact person for the July 2021, July 4th celebration on July 4th, 2021 at Stonefield Park.
This is also an annual event in their 13th year. It does include a small parade that is fairly minimal. And Judy has said that their bikers are usually done in about 5 minutes. Slowest walkers are usually done in about 20 minutes max. They also did prepare a COVID-19 event safety plan Judy's on the call as well for any questions.
I don't have any questions and I'll move approval for
And I'll
both.
second.
Thank
Any
you.
further, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Then we'll take 18 and 19 together. Application for special event permit by Bob George Memorial, Cindy George, contact person for the George Memorial on July 14, 24th, 2021 at Fireman's Park. And an application for an outdoor amplified sound permit by Cindy George for Bob George Memorial, 6643 Columbus Drive, Middleton, Wisconsin, for sound system announcements, 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. July 24th, 2021 for the Bob George Memorial.
Yeah, so this is a new event, but just a memorial gathering to honor Bob's life at Fireman's Park. They've reserved both the large and small shelters at Fireman's, and also submitted a pandemic plan. And Cindy is on the call tonight too, if anyone has any questions for her.
I have two quick questions. It says alcohol be sold or consumed, yes. And then the next question was, do you have a security emergency plan? No. And then it says for alcohol related permits only. Jeremy, those aren't, a security plan isn't required for something like this if you have alcohol, or? I'm
So
pretty sure
this is a question I was leaning on Matt for his opinion as well. So they want to give the alcohol away, and I was looking at the statutes and I was 100% certain they didn't need a temp B. And then I talked about in public places you do. So I don't, where do you stand on that one? It was, where's my book? So, well, he's thinking of that one. Kathy, to kind of answer your question, is the temp B, it's, and this is, I guess, good time for clarification too, is the temp B with a special event permit is what initiates the need for a safety plan. Although in ordinance, I guess I don't see that anywhere. There's kind of a generic reference to how they have to address security concerns, but it doesn't necessarily say here's exactly what you need.
Okay.
That comes up every once in a while because our temp B permit on the city website includes all of the questions for the safety plan and all the questions that need to be addressed. But if you get a temp B license, perhaps even at the state's website, which is available there, that is not part of it. It's something that.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so this is an event, it's occurring in a park. I'm just trying to find where the public place language is. Because municipal parks are one of the things that are places exempted from the need of a license
So
for purposes of public place.
So is that 12509 that you're looking at?
That's what, yeah, well, that's where I was first looking at, but then I need to look closer. I didn't see the language I was looking for.
But it says does not apply to municipalities. So I didn't know if that meant a municipal park or if a municipality is serving alcohol in the park.
Let's see. Oh, right there, yeah, that's what I was looking for. So public place, no owner, lessee, or person in charge of a public place may permit the consumption of alcohol beverages on the premises of the public place unless the person has an appropriate retail license or permit. The subsection does not apply to municipalities, buildings, and parks owned by counties. So, but it doesn't apply to us. We are, let's see, regularly established athletic fields, stadiums, school buildings, campuses, private colleges, churches, premises in a state fair, park, or clubs. Yeah, so does that apply to municipalities?
That was my question.
But it's the, yeah, it's,
I,
right, it's the owner the prohibition is on the owner to permit or not permit being in charge of a public place. And so we are the owner of the park.
Yeah, I could see it being interpreted both ways.
Yeah.
It's a little bit ambiguous.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not crystal clear, but I think it's clear enough that the subject of the regulation is the owner, what the entity or individual may or may not do. And the following clause says that municipalities are among the universe of owners or persons in charge of public place. That are subject to that restriction. So yeah, I would say, and this is one of the parks that we allow alcohol to be served in.
Yes. So good to go?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Great.
So
And
we
then
don't need a security plan.
that's the next question is,
Oh,
Yeah, because that's where
Yeah.
we're at. We need a security plan.
so if the special event permit, it has those check boxes, obviously, that you guys are looking at, which then would, and it says for alcohol related permits only. And let me find that section of the ordinance.
Because if we interpreted it that way, we own all parks, which means that like Good Neighbor Fest wouldn't need a special events permit because they're in a park.
Well, no, we're talking about whether you need a temporary alcohol license. If there's two things that require a temporary alcohol license. One, you need a license to serve in a public place, and that's the issue we just got around. And two, that you are selling. I'm assuming also along with this though that the deciding not to sell. I mean, is there other fundraising thing going on? Would the circumstances be such that you're looking that this looks like getting around? I mean, the classic example of what I'm talking about is selling cups at a party. That doesn't get you out from under the regulation. I mean, certainly I'm not suggesting anything similarly nefarious is going on here, but that's the only other area for that I guess I would be at all questioning.
Yeah, if you want me to answer, this is Cindy George. Yeah, we're not going to be doing any fundraising or selling. It's just going to be serving.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, as long as it's truly giving away and not a subterfuge around the license requirement, and yeah, I don't think that's an issue. And then so yeah, now we're looking at security plan, or no, yeah, security plan. But I'm in the entertainment club license. That's not the right one.
I have it somewhere. Stand by. Trying to find the specific reference, so just to got a lot of emails here though. So in the special events permit section, it just mentions that they have to address security concerns. Thought I had it cited in the email, but let me find it here real quick. It's under content of application.
Oh, okay.
Permit contents. It just says requirement for the protection of persons and property abutting and near the portion of the public areas to be closed. Oh, I'm sorry, parent F here under 9, it's on page 57 of chapter 7. Requirements for security, crowd control, and traffic control plan for the event in conformance with the most recent edition of the manual on uniform traffic control devices. So,
Right. So, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean a security, well, I suppose in the most general sense, it's a requirement of a security plan, but
right,
yeah, there's no formal, basically whatever we think is necessary to address any security issues or concerns.
When they say security plan, are they looking for things like, will anybody who will be monitoring the serving of the alcohol and over serving of that? Or is it more the egress of the area?
Well, I think it's primarily, more ingress, egress. What happens if people kind of start getting out of control? How do you keep fights from happening and stuff? But yeah, depending on the nature of the event, security concerns are going to be different.
Right.
For
I think this is a memorial service, so I'm guessing this will be a pretty mellow kind of thing. So I would just say something like, in the event of something happening, that the police would be called, that should be fine, wouldn't it?
if that satisfies, the committee, and the police department is not recommending anything.
I don't anticipate any problems.
Okay,
I
So that's
suspect there
great.
will be a large crowd, but
yeah,
it's a memorial
Yeah.
service as well, so.
yeah. The only other question I had for you, Cindy, is it said that the cleanup was going to start at 9 p.m., but you have the special, the amplified sound going until 10. And after 9 o'clock, there's different regulations for that, for the sound.
Sure. I guess I was thinking we would have to be done if we started cleaning up I think the permit goes until 10. So I was thinking we would start cleanup at 10 or at 9.
Oh,
So we'd be
At
done by
9,
10.
right.
Yeah. But you're saying, yeah, we're really not, I mean, tell me what I need to do and we'll make it
No,
happen
I'm
so
just
that the
wondering,
parameters are.
will you need the amplified sound until 10, or would you be able to get by with like 9?
What happens after 9? Do we have to
Then you
call it
have,
another?
the volume has to go down.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Yeah. I guess to be safe, maybe we should say it'll go until 10. I am
Okay.
thinking 9 o'clock will be good, but if,
Okay.
we are aware of what needs to happen at 9, we can definitely make that happen for
Yeah,
sure.
just because it is in the neighborhood and stuff, and we want to be respectful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So, very good.
of course.
Okay.
Of course.
All right, so you'd
Yeah.
like to leave it go to 10, but you understand that the sound does change at 9. The sound levels
Sure.
change. So, very good.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Mhm.
This is Katie. I will move approval on both the special events permit and the amplified sound permit.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy.
Ordinances. An ordinance to amend section 7.08, print 8I, to modify open container restrictions for special events.
This was the ordinance kind of to address our
Park.
our special plan for Good Neighbor Festival, and to basically create an area within which multiple temporary licensees can operate.
Okay, Dan, Katie, any questions? Jeremy, the police are all okay with this so far, so good?
Yep. Yeah, we're certainly willing to try it out and see
Yeah.
if it's changing anything.
Okay, I'll move approval.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ordinance number 2, an ordinance relating to the appointment procedures and terms for city boards, committees, and commissions. And I'm not going to read all the meetings that has been through.
Yeah, I think what I have here is what we talked about last month. I hope it is.
Well, I'm wondering
but-
where some of this came from. I mean, on 2 of the 3, you have the mayor or at his discretion. Was there a reason the airport was different?
No, I think 2.18 is the airport, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's different just because for some reason, if you'll see, sub 2 gives the same language, but for the way that airport section was set up, the language before about how the mayor and the designee and that serves during the term of the mayor, all that was
Yeah.
in subsection 2. So it's the same language, the mayor and the mayor's discretion. So I've just repealed and we're recreating that language there. So in each of these, this is all going to be pretty uniform language.
I guess I'm still confused because in item number 2, it says the mayor shall serve as a member.
Right, but then in sub 1 it says the mayor shall serve as a member, but 2 says, then you go on to 2, the mayor and the mayor's discretion may choose not to sit as a member.
But aren't these for different committees?
No, this is both under 2.18, and 2.18 is all airport.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
it just that one was just for whatever reason.
Okay. And then
Kind
the
of the whole
question-
section was just kind of set up a little bit differently from the outset. And
Okay, so section 5 for public safety, 5 resident members of the city?
well, I changed that because right now nominally the chief is a member, and that's what we were gonna make him no longer an actual member, and presumably that's who the city administrator will now assign to be his staff. But to keep the number of members odd, I just added a resident member. I don't know if that's what we're doing now,
No, I don't think we are anymore. So,
but it seems like we should
see-
have it. We like to keep odd numbers, and so I just added a
Yeah.
citizen resident to be the actual sitting, voting, serving member, and then.
Yeah, because it'll be the same number of members then as it currently is now.
Yeah, because if I just deleted the chief, it would say there's the introductory language of that says essentially this committee shall have 7 members, and then it wouldn't
Okay.
have 7 members anymore. I'd have to
Okay.
make it 6, so I could have gone that route, but
right, which may work out well because the mayor may want to move the person that he has serving for him into that or whatever, it gives him that option. if he wants.
well, no, but that would still be the mayor's seat that he would fill. So you still need
Mm,
you need to put somebody in the seat that the chief used to sit in.
Right, okay. Gotcha,
That makes sense.
okay,
So, Matt, I just want to point out, I'm just thinking this through in my head because I've been to that committee before, and I'm just looking at the city website, there are currently five people, including the mayor designee. And then there's a common council member, Alder Kuhn is on there, and then the chief as well.
So we may just by this ordinance be ratifying what our current practice is.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
it's a
so
good thing
that's-
our ordinance catches up, right? I guess the mayor won't have to appoint anybody then, shall he?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you, that explains that, so. Very good. Dan, Katie, any other questions?
Move approval.
And I can read Katie's lips, but that's okay.
Did it again. Can you see from my face, I have migraine and I'm like spacey. Sorry.
Okay. So that was a second from Katie. Any further
Yes, it was.
discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Miscellaneous number 1. Discussion on the possibility of amending the school parking ordinance to allow for some businesses to obtain permits.
So I look, again at the statute, and I looked at our other exception where we allowed the teacher thing with the school district, and I don't believe we have a statutory ability to exempt businesses. The issue with the schools, our ordinance specifically requires that to be accomplished through an intergovernmental agreement, and under specifically refers to section 660301, which allows different units of government to essentially kind of jointly exercise powers. And so that's kind of the hook that we use to allow that to work, because part of what that was enacted for is we were trying to get more students in the parking lots and the teachers out in the street, because we were having litter problems hanging out in people's yards and everything. And so this was kind of set up to be sort of viewed legally as a joint exercise of city powers, rather than, strictly speaking, just granting permits to the school.
Right.
It's a thin distinction, but I think a meaningful one. But that's kind of how we're able to legally justify that as a joint exercise of intergovernmental power, rather than granting, just additional privileges in streets to citizens, different from how the restrictions would apply to everyone else. So, I think if there's any sort of relief to be granted here, I think it has to be just looked at to see whether there's any areas in the vicinity that can be relaxed. And I don't know how that can necessarily be done, but.
Well, I know that there's the parking lot between between the fire station and the old PDQ. And I walk that, and that's like a 5-minute walk, and that's close by, and there's plenty of parking there. And also across from Fisker's, I think that's a public parking ramp, and that's 5 minutes also. It's not ideal, but if you were anywhere else, it would be,
Well, right, and just from a
free
general.
parking.
Yeah, and from an overall policy perspective, I understand that things have happened in the neighborhood that have changed and limited their options, but I don't think that's necessarily different from what can happen to a lot of different businesses. And our ordinances require provision of off-street parking for certain things, that we certainly have downtown businesses that rely on public parking and have those limitations. And while I certainly appreciate that this is a significant change, I'm not sure that if we start making an exception here, that all of a sudden, I'm not sure where the sensible stopping point would be before we're making even more accommodations for.
Right.
More
Where would it stop? Yeah. So businesses aren't allowed by statute to have.
statute.
By
Right,
statute.
right.
And we'll let Lori know that too, so that it.
Maybe
Or
Mr.
what?
Wall will lease them a few spots for their employees.
I'm sure he would. Anybody could ask, so, okay. So we don't need to do, that was just discussion item.
Right. Yeah,
Is-
I don't know if anyone from Paul's.
Yeah, is anyone from Paul's on the call? Okay,
I don't know if we need to communicate that to them or wait till they knock on our door and ask what we decided.
well, I think that they had their request into Lori. Maybe that's where we would go with that, so. once we tell her, she can follow up,
Okay. Yeah, and if-
because she issues the permits and she will be the one that'll be thumbs up,
yeah,
down. on it.
if she needs a more, detailed explanation than what appears in the minutes, or she can contact me, I can help communicate the issue.
Very good. Okay, miscellaneous number 2, discussion on the content of the special event permit application in regards to notification of entities affected by an event. And this is what I asked to have added. There is a box on the special event permit that is, it's got a lot of, covers a lot of territory. And it's on page 2, I believe. No, wait. Page 3. Have you met with community groups, residents, businesses, places of worship, schools, Madison Metro Bus, Postal Service, or other entities that may be directly affected by your event? And there's, I think that what the people who don't fill out these applications that often, it's a really broad kind of catch-all, and then like residents, what's the radius of distance that residents would have to be notified? Is the Madison Metro Postal Service, is that only for street closures? The community groups is like, how, I don't even understand how, what kind of community group would be directly affected by an event?
Well, I think this is another one of those things where it depends on the event, the nature of the event and location of the event. To the extent, I don't know if we're getting people who think that, okay, I'm having a special event, now I have to go find all the community groups, I have to meet with residents, and like this is some kind of checklist. At least as I read it and what I think the utility of this is, I don't read it that way. So maybe what we would want to do is just, have you met with, any persons or entities that may be directly affected by your event? This may include this list. Because I think from the L&O's perspective, when you come in, I mean, you're going to have your ideas, I think, of who might be affected here, and this just tells us, okay, well, you've already talked with them, but have you talked with?
I like that clarification.
So when they submit their special event permit, do we have to ask them, well, if they answer, yes, I met with the Boy Scouts, do we have to say, well, have you met with the neighbors? We require that you meet with such and such, or?
We don't require them to meet with anybody. I mean, I think this is, this isn't a question that is necessarily required to be asked. This is, I think the genesis of this is, we know that various events, they're going to affect different neighborhoods differently. And I think any conscientious planner, for instance, you plan an event in a small sort of neighborhood park, probably makes sense if you're a conscientious planner and there's a neighborhood association, or there's a couple of neighbors that are really close, then maybe you would take the initiative and kind of talk with them and learn their concerns beforehand, so that when you come to us and we know, hey, there are a couple of houses really close there, oh, we've already talked to those folks, and I think that's the intention of that. It's certainly, like I said, certainly not a per se ordinance requirement. It's just maybe gives them an idea of, oh yeah, maybe I should talk to so-and-so before I meet with L&O, and also let you know whether or not they have. But I mean, if it's blank, it's not a, it doesn't mean we can't issue the permit.
So Kathy, do we need to do things like, on some forms that we fill out online in life, there are asterisks near the required fields?
Okay, That's
Is
a good,
that
good
something?
question, because right here it says at the top, event information, answer all questions completely. Or we could put here asterisk equals required field. Is that what you're saying, instead of answer all questions completely?
Yeah, I mean,
Ask-
just to, because Matt's assuming that it's not required, and someone else who's new to this and would fill it out might just totally stress out about how many places do I
I
have
would.
to talk to?
I would.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why I suggest maybe just rewording it to say, just to ask, have you met with any potentially affected parties? This may include, or such as, because really the question is, just be cognizant of the neighborhood and
Can we say something like, it is recommended that you meet with friends
I
and
guess-
neighbors?
That's a question I had too. I mean, is it just a courtesy, or is there any instance where it would actually be required for them to notify, like if they're closing a street for just a festival, or like, do residents need to know about that? Or is it again just
well,
a nicety?
no, well, if this committee doesn't want to issue the permit because it feels that there might be things and people being impacted, and because I mean, sometimes we don't know whether people have objections or what issues they may have unless they've been notified. And so, yeah, I mean, it really comes down to this committee's judgment and discretion about whether this is an undue impact on the area. And if you know of clearly there's these people that are going to be dramatically affected, and you haven't bothered to talk to them, provide notice.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of street closings, it seems, I don't know if we have a specific notice.
I think
Well, and
street
that's gonna-
closings, you really
we
need
did,
to
but-
notify people. Yeah, because if
I
you wake
thought-
up and your street's closed,
They usually have, don't they? A lot of people will put out a flyer before. But I think the thing is with this is there's going to be a different set of expectations from the committee, I believe. If you're having a special event at, say, Fireman's Park, which is surrounded by houses, or if you're in the industrial park.
Right.
I mean, it's an entirely different set of circumstances. And that goes to Matt's point of, that's our job and the discretion that we need to take.
okay.
Yeah, we just, I think as staff reviews these, and then as the committee, we just, is this?
Well,
too
this
much of
is
an
something
impact?
that was flagged at the, for a special event from Capital Flight in this blank, and that would cause questions about it. And I want to make sure that,
Oh,
Yeah,
that-
well.
Because it's being, in some quarters, it's being seen as an absolute requirement. And if you don't check off all the boxes, then how is it that you have a permit?
right,
Yeah.
right. Well, yeah, well, and this doesn't list, you go down the column and it's yes, no, and then you get to here and it's not a yes, no question. It's just please list. And if you didn't do it, I mean, there's no box to check no, and you leave it blank.
Yeah, I mean,
And what I would think is at least we would want to have the check boxes so people have the option of checking yes or no.
Mhm.
I agree.
yeah, or giving some explanation. Like,
Be-
we're out at the airport, who are we bothering? We've talked to the airport commission,
Well, if they haven't, and then it
Well,
says,
right,
"Please
yeah,
list," and you leave it
exactly.
blank, that.
But I mean, my experience, we've typically asked about, frankly, I don't remember the last time I specifically looked at that box. We usually ask the obvious questions.
And we, like I said, we take into account, what's the location? Where is this happening?
Right.
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, so yeah, so I mean, our attention is drawn to this. Yeah, there are probably some tweaks to that to make it a little clearer on what it is. But I mean, it's clear that our ordinance does not, require, specifically talking to people. So I'm not concerned that if that's not listed and this committee has decided there isn't anybody they should talk to.
Well, that's what you're right. If it's not required, though, we should give somebody the option to say, no, I haven't. No, check the box, no, I haven't, or yes, please list would be the next option.
Yeah.
Well, then put the 2 check boxes in, the yes, no. And
Yes,
then-
and for,
then they can-
Yeah.
That's
and
an
how are
easy
you
thing.
marketing?
Maybe even beyond it. I mean, I think if they check no, you might want to provide some, if yes, please list. If no,
Yeah,
just
right.
explain.
But
Well,
if
then
you
when
have
they
a
come
no
before
box
us, we
there,
can
it
ask
lets
them why
them
they
know
said
it's
no.
not
Well,
required.
yeah, true. That's maybe that's a better way to handle it. Sure.
So, okay. Just wanted to, because when I look at it, it's like, I wouldn't know where to start with that. So,
Yeah, Madison Metro at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night in the industrial park. Come on, man.
yeah.
Well, I
Would
think so.
be-
I
would
think
be-
like Madison Metro, I think is probably on there specifically with street closures in mind.
Right.
I understand.
Yeah, but right. I mean, somebody who doesn't do this and
Laura, you get questions on this box very often?
Not a ton, but it's more on there. And I mean, this is really good timing because I am actually combing through this and hoping to kind of revise it just so it is a little bit more, I want it to be as crystal clear as possible. And from the most part, it's gonna stay the same because a lot of this stuff just it needs to be in here, but I think there are different ways to word things, and I could definitely make that modification. If anybody has any other feedback on anything that seems a little unclear, let me know. But I think once I kind of get it to a point where I think it's ready, I can have it presented to the committee to just kind of review and see if there's
Perfect.
anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just a great question to have because it does make them think about things that maybe they weren't already thinking about.
Mhm.
But this is also an area that I'd like to include in, I mean, we have a special event handbook, and I'm kind of going to turn that into a guide that kind of just goes down the areas of things to be thinking about. And that's definitely one of them. So
Great.
That will be very helpful for people.
Very helpful, yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, that was just discussion. So I think that concludes this 3-page agenda. Jeremy.
I know, this is the longest one in a long time, though. I guess we've had it pretty light for the last year, so it's time.
Nicely done. We got through it in good time.
That
Yeah, we
was,
did.
yeah, it was
We've
good.
had shorter agendas that have taken longer.
Absolutely.
Very
This is
good.
true.
All right, I move to
Okay,
adjourn.
Second.
all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Bye. See you
Good night,
next
everyone.
time.
Thank
Bye.
you.
guys.
Bye.